A security analyst calls for a consistent stance on the Philippines' position in the West Philippine Sea dispute at the upcoming ASEAN summit in Laos.
The geopolitical tensions in the South China Sea have reached a critical juncture, with the Philippines finding itself at the center of a brewing conflict involving China's territorial ambitions. While the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, has long sought to mediate and de-escalate tensions through a unified approach, progress has been slow, and the prospects of achieving a binding code of conduct, COC, with China seem increasingly bleak. Against this backdrop, Manila is being urged by analysts to prioritize smaller, focused defense partnerships with its immediate neighbors, particularly Vietnam and Malaysia, as a more practical and effective means of safeguarding its national interests and countering Beijing's growing assertiveness. For over 2 decades, ASEAN has worked with China to establish a COC for the South China Sea, aiming to prevent conflict and manage disputes in this contested maritime region. However, the negotiations have continually stalled, plagued by the inherent limitations of ASEAN's consensus-driven decision-making model. ASEAN's core mission has always centered on fostering economic cooperation and cultural engagement rather than addressing hard security issues, a fact that complicates its ability to present a unified stance on sensitive geopolitical matters. This structural limitation has hindered progress, even as all parties committed to finalizing a COC by 2026. The Philippines, as one of the key claimant states in the South China Sea, has consistently expressed a commitment to securing a COC with China and other ASEAN members. Philippine Foreign Secretary Enrique Manalo reaffirmed this position in early 2024, stating that the Philippines remains firmly committed to pursuing an agreement that could deter hostilities.
Now, we have had regular meetings with China. We have an existing bilateral consultation mechanism on the South China Sea, which has actually been in existence for a number of years now. And we have met regularly with China, maybe once or twice a year. These meetings have occurred in times of, let's say, higher tension, or also in times of lesser tension.
Yet, as Dindo Manhit, president of the Manila-based think tank Stratbase ADR Institute, argues, the odds of ASEAN forging a meaningful COC are dwindling due to the diverse and sometimes conflicting interests of its member states. ASEAN's diverse membership includes countries that are either non-claimants or economically reliant on China, such as Cambodia and Laos. These nations have little incentive to adopt a hardline stance against Beijing, further complicating the possibility of a united ASEAN response. China's insistence on some form of recognition of its rights in the South China Sea remains a significant obstacle, particularly for countries like the Philippines, whose claims are backed by international law and a landmark 2016 ruling by the Permanent Court of Arbitration in The Hague, which rejected China's expansive maritime claims. Given ASEAN's inherent limitations, analysts like Manhit have urged the Philippines to adopt a different approach by focusing on mini-lateral agreements, small, targeted defense partnerships with like-minded nations in the region. This strategy would involve closer security cooperation with countries like Vietnam and Malaysia, both of which are also engaged in territorial disputes with China in the South China Sea. Unlike the broader, slower-moving multilateral negotiations within ASEAN, mini-laterals offer flexibility and speed, allowing the Philippines to collaborate more effectively on immediate security concerns. Such partnerships, while initially small in scope, have the potential to grow into more coordinated networks that could address broader regional challenges. This approach could strengthen collective security in the Indo-Pacific by creating a web of interlocking defense agreements that, over time, might converge into a more unified regional response to Chinese aggression. Already, Manila has begun to pursue this strategy. Recent developments include enhanced security cooperation with Hanoi and a defense agreement with Singapore, indicating that the Philippines is increasingly seeking to build a network of security partnerships beyond its traditional reliance on the United States. Vietnam has long been one of the most vocal opponents of China's expansive claims in the South China Sea. Like the Philippines, it has also sought to deepen defense ties and collaborate more closely on maritime security issues. In 2024, the Philippines and Vietnam agreed to boost their defense cooperation, signaling a growing recognition of the need for closer collaboration in countering China's assertiveness in the region. Malaysia, too, has taken a firmer stance against Beijing's tactics in recent years. In 2024, Kuala Lumpur intercepted Chinese vessels near Ardasier Bank, a contested area within Malaysia's exclusive economic zone. Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim's decision to continue oil exploration efforts in these waters, despite protests from Beijing, demonstrates the country's resolve to assert its sovereignty and rights under international law, particularly the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. UNCLOS. These developments suggest that both Vietnam and Malaysia are becoming more willing to challenge China's maritime claims, making them ideal partners for the Philippines in its effort to build a regional coalition that can uphold a rules-based international order in the South China Sea. While the Philippines has increasingly looked toward its ASEAN neighbors for security partnerships, it has not abandoned its traditional alliance with the United States. The U.S.-Philippine Mutual Defense Treaty, in place since 1951, remains a cornerstone of Manila's security strategy. The U.S. has consistently reaffirmed its commitment to defending the Philippines in the event of an armed attack in the South China Sea, most recently during a series of high-profile joint military exercises in 2024.
So, Phil, I won't get into any hypotheticals on what could happen and how it could happen. I would just say that you've heard me say, you've heard our president say a number of times that our commitment to the treaty is ironclad, and we stand with the Philippines.
However, analysts note that the Philippines must strike a careful balance between strengthening its mini-lateral agreements and maintaining its long-standing alliance with Washington. The U.S. presence in the region serves as a significant deterrent to Chinese aggression, but over-reliance on American military power could complicate Manila's relations with its ASEAN partners, some of whom have adopted more neutral stances between Washington and Beijing. For the Philippines, the challenge lies in building a robust network of regional security ties that complements its alliance with the U.S., rather than becoming overly dependent on it. In doing so, Manila can better position itself to counter China's aggressive tactics while maintaining a degree of strategic autonomy. One of the key factors driving the Philippines' push for mini-lateral agreements is the need to uphold international law, particularly the 2016 ruling by The Hague, which invalidated China's claims over most of the South China Sea. This ruling, based on UNCLOS, affirmed the Philippines' rights within its exclusive economic zone, EEZ. But Beijing has consistently refused to recognize the legality of the decision.
Chinese people will not accept the result, and all people around the world who uphold justice will not accept the result. China's non-acceptance and non-participation is to safeguard the international rule of law and regional rules. Now the farce is over. It's time to get back to the right track. China has taken note of the signals from the Philippine government that is willing to resume discussion with China over the South China Sea issue.
The Philippines' mini-lateral strategy could provide a mechanism for like-minded countries to jointly assert their rights under international law, even in the absence of a formal ASEAN-wide consensus. By forging closer ties with Vietnam and Malaysia, both of which have also invoked UNCLOS to defend their territorial claims, the Philippines can bolster its legal position and demonstrate a unified commitment to a rules-based international order. Manhit suggests that while a formal COC with China may remain elusive, the Philippines and its partners could pursue their own mini-lateral COC that excludes China, at least initially. Such an agreement would send a strong signal to Beijing and the international community that the region's claimant states are capable of managing their disputes and maintaining stability without being beholden to Chinese demands. As the Philippines prepares to assume the chairmanship of ASEAN in 2026, it has a unique opportunity to shape the regional agenda and push for progress on maritime security issues. While a formal ASEAN-wide COC may remain out of reach, the Philippines can use its leadership role to advocate for greater regional cooperation among maritime member states and push for a more coordinated response to Chinese aggression.
Maritime cooperation is especially significant to the Philippines as an archipelagic nation. We must emphasize that practical cooperation in the maritime domain can only flourish with an enabling environment of regional peace, security, stability, anchored in international law.
This could lay the groundwork for a broader, more cohesive regional security framework that aligns with the principles of international law and respects the sovereignty of all claimant states in the South China Sea. As ASEAN negotiations with China over the South China Sea continue to stall, the Philippines finds itself at a crossroads in its foreign policy. While it remains committed to a peaceful, diplomatic resolution of its territorial disputes, the growing recognition of ASEAN's limitations has prompted Manila to explore alternative strategies. By focusing on mini-lateral agreements with its neighbors, the Philippines can build a more resilient security network that both complements its alliance with the United States and strengthens regional cooperation in the Indo-Pacific. The road ahead will not be easy, but by pursuing a flexible, multi-tiered approach to its foreign policy, the Philippines can better navigate the complex dynamics of the South China Sea and ensure that its national interests are protected in the years to come. Thank you for tuning in to our channel. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to like, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel for more in-depth analysis of global issues.